Revealed, how a struggling waitress's amazing gesture on Christmas changed a millionaire's life. The cozy little diner in Millfield was bustling, filled with the aromas of hearty meals and the soft clatter of dishes. Christmas lights twinkled in the windows, but the joy of the season was tinged with the weight of Sarah's worries. At 32, she was the essence of American resilience, balancing 2 young children and her job as a waitress while her husband was deployed overseas. Tonight, Christmas Eve, was supposed to feel festive, but all Sarah could think about was the growing pile of unpaid bills and how this year there wouldn't be much under the tree. In the thick of the holiday rush, she maneuvered between tables with practiced grace, plastering on a smile that barely masked her exhaustion. She noticed Jenny, a fellow waitress, sitting at her own table with tears streaming down her cheeks. Heart aching, Sarah couldn't help but pause. "Hey, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice gentle amidst the chaos. Jenny poured out her worries about her own financial struggles, the stress overwhelming her spirit. Sarah listened intently, her heart breaking for the woman, knowing all too well the burdens of motherhood. "You're not alone, Jenny," she said softly, placing her hand on hers, offering reassurance wrapped in empathy. In that moment, they shared a connection, a brief flicker of solidarity on what could be a lonely holiday. Across the diner, a man sat alone, nursing a cup of coffee. Tom, a wealthy businessman, felt the hollowness of his fortune as he watched families enjoy their time together. The warmth of the diner contrasted sharply with the chill of isolation that hung over him. He saw Sarah, tirelessly tending to the tables while managing her own troubles. A small part of him admired her. Here she was, facing life head-on while he felt helpless to change his own. When Sarah, with small but significant gestures, reached into her pocket and handed over part of her tips to a family next to her, Tom's heart tightened. It was only a few dollars, but the act of kindness transformed her into a beacon of generosity when she had so little. Witnessing her selflessness made him question his own worth, suddenly feeling every cent of his wealth felt inadequate compared to the richness of her spirit. But as the rush quieted, disaster struck. Sarah's car broke down outside the diner, a cruel twist of fate that sent her stomach spiraling. "This can't be happening," she thought, panic rising as she imagined how she would explain this to her kids. The weight of despair felt heavier than before, bearing down on her hopes for a better future. Tom, unable to shake off the guilt of watching her struggles, felt compelled to do something. He gathered his thoughts and, in a moment of impulsive courage, decided to help her directly, believing that financial aid might lighten her load. As he approached Sarah, feeling vulnerable in his own way, he miscalculated. "I know I can help," he began, but what he offered backfired, igniting a fierce confrontation. "You think money fixes everything?" she snapped, more hurt than angry. Their voices rose, passion fueling each word, Tom grappling with the disparity of their lives and Sarah defending her pride and independence. In that heated moment, truths spilled out, and the air crackled with tension. They were 2 people from worlds apart, yet sharing the same suffering, both struggling to redefine what true support and worth meant. "Before they continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Just when it seemed they could find common ground, a sudden emergency called Sarah away, leaving Tom standing alone in the diner, his heart heavy with regret and unresolved feelings. The warmth of the diner faded, replaced by the uncertainty of what the Christmas spirit truly meant to each of them. Would their lives entwine again, or was this just the beginning of understanding hidden layers of empathy and connection beneath their contrasting lives? The next morning, Christmas Day, dawned crisp and bright. Sunlight streamed through the frosted window panes of the diner, casting a warm glow on the red and green decorations that adorned every corner. Sarah stood at the counter, sipping a cup of coffee and letting the warmth seep into her bones. The slight ache in her chest lingered from the night before, but the holiday spirit nudged her to shake it off and present a brave front. She glanced around the diner, joy and laughter bubbling as families gathered for festive meals. A little girl giggled as her father lifted her high into the air for a better view of the holiday tree, and a group of friends exchanged gifts, their faces lit with excitement. The atmosphere was infectious, but Sarah's thoughts trailed to her own children, who were at home, undoubtedly rating the small pile of presents they had managed to scrape together. The bell above the door jingled and in walked Tom, looking somewhat lost and out of place. His suit, so often a sign of his status, felt heavy against the joyful ambience. He spotted Sarah at the counter, and the smile he offered was tentative, almost apologetic. "Hey," he said, his voice a mixture of warmth and uncertainty. "Hi," she replied, wary but curious about his sudden appearance. Yesterday's confrontation felt raw and unresolved, festering beneath their cordial exchange. "I wanted to talk again, if you'll let me." Sarah hesitated, memories of their heated words cascading through her mind. But there was something in Tom's eyes, an earnestness, a deep desire to understand. "Sure," Sarah finally said, pushing her coffee cup aside. "But let's keep it simple." Tom motioned for them to sit at one of the empty booths in the back. As they settled in, there was a flicker of nervousness between them, a wrestling with past judgments. "I didn't mean to offend you yesterday," he started, his voice steady but softening. It shocked me, how you give so much. I can't remember the last time I felt that way about the world." "What do you mean?" She leaned in, genuine curiosity flashing across her face. Tom took a breath, struggling to express emotions buried under years of privilege. "I lost touch with what really matters," he confessed. "I saw you help that family, and frankly, it was a mirror reflecting my own emptiness. And I realize now that throwing money at someone's problems doesn't help. I wanted to fix things, but instead, I need to learn." Sarah's guard softened. Seeing Tom grapple with his own sense of inadequacy gave her a strange sense of solace. She saw a man searching for meaning, not just a wealthy stranger throwing bills around. "Maybe we both have lessons to learn," she replied, her voice tinged with compassion. "What you saw was me doing what I could, not what I wanted. Hope doesn't require money." Silence hovered as they both processed the shared weight of responsibility. Then Tom looked up, determination sparking in his eyes. "What if I come back to this diner and help out? Not as a customer, but as someone who can do something meaningful?" Surprise flared in Sarah's heart. Who would have thought a millionaire would want to lend a hand in a diner? It was unexpected, even ridiculous, but something about his resolve felt sincere. "That sounds different," she replied carefully, a small smile creeping onto her lips. "But you'd have to learn the ropes." Tom chuckled, the tension breaking. "I'm willing." They exchanged tentative smiles, each feeling the promise of change. But as the diner filled with laughter and chatter, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope blossom amid uncertainty. Would this be the start of a new path for them both? Before she could dwell on it, the diner's door swung open, bringing in a gust of chilly air and a group of exuberant children. They rushed toward the counter, tugging at their parents. The moment was electric, completely childlike wonder that reminded her of the holiday spirit she had almost forgotten. As she watched the revelry unfold, something stirred deep within her. What could change? Today, really? She mused silently, looking toward Tom, who was now laughing with a little girl brimming with energy. Maybe, just maybe, today would be a turning point, not just for Tom but for her family too. As warmth began to settle around them, a thought fluttered into her mind: if they embarked on this journey together, what transformations might arise? The answer lay at the heart of a single question: could the strength of new friendships redefine the meaning of family and connection this holiday season? The chatter in the diner swelled around Sarah and Tom like a warm embrace, contrasting sharply with the chill outside. As the buzz of Christmas cheer enveloped them, Sarah couldn't shake the sense that this could be more than just a fleeting moment. She felt an uncharted thrill, mixed with apprehension, as she pondered the possibilities of tomorrow. "Why not start right now?" Tom said, breaking her reverie. His enthusiasm was contagious, drawing Sarah back to his steady gaze. "How about I help serve some of these families today?" She chuckled lightly, an unexpected burst of laughter spilling out. "Are you serious? You barely know how to make a cup of coffee, let alone serve food." Tom leaned back, a grin stretching across his face. "Isn't it about time I learned? Anything for a better view than my boardroom, right?" Sarah took a moment to consider. His lightheartedness warmed her heart. Perhaps this was what made today different. She could see a different Tom, a man unafraid of looking foolish in front of strangers. It might not just benefit him either, it could forge a new connection between them, a bridge back to her own sense of community. "Fine," she relented, her smile widening. "Let us turn you into a diner server then. But I'll be watching you." Tom laughed, a rich sound full of promise. They both stood, and Sarah swiftly guided him to the back where the kitchen bustled with activity. The air was alive with the aroma of sizzling bacon and the sweet scent of cinnamon rolls cooling by the window. "First rule of serving," she said, raising an eyebrow playfully. "No spilling. Your suit won't forgive you if you do." Tom nodded seriously, a mock grave look plastered on his face. He picked up a tray, wobbling slightly as he balanced it against his hip. Sarah felt a flutter of warmth at the sight. This wasn't the man she had argued with just a day prior. This was someone willing to put himself out there, willing to try. As they emerged from the back, the cheerful noise of the diner swelled even louder. Families waved to Tom, some confused by his presence while others looked on in amused curiosity. With Sarah guiding him, he learned quickly, sometimes struggling but never backing down from the challenge. When Tom approached a table of children eagerly awaiting their hot chocolate, the sight warmed Sarah's heart. He knelt down, engaging them with laughter and stories about his attempts to make pancakes that morning, an exaggeration that had the kids squealing in delight. Sarah watched from a distance, the ache in her chest lifting slowly. She felt her own children's absence sharply, yet for the first time that day, she began to imagine them here, sharing laughter at the holiday spirit surrounding them. Minutes turned into hours, and the busy diner buzzed with joy. The children's laughter blended with Tom's newfound presence, and even some adults began to join in the light-hearted spirit. He was no longer just Tom, the distant millionaire, he was becoming part of their world. As Sarah approached him, he flashed a grin. "Did you see that? I think I actually might have made someone's day." "You might just have changed your own, too," she replied, the realization dawning on her. Watching Tom interact with families opened her eyes a little wider to the possibility of what they could build together. This wasn't just a day of giving, it was the start of something transformative, not just for Tom, but for her community, and maybe even her family. But just as her heart began to feel unrestricted, a sudden rumble outside captured their attention. The front door swung open again, revealing a figure clad in a long coat, hood pulled up. The cheerful atmosphere shifted momentarily, an uneasy silence cooling the warmth. "Can I help you?" Sarah called out, curiosity coiling into tension. As the figure stepped into the light, recognition washed over her like ice water. It was someone she didn't expect to see, and with them came an air of unfinished business. Tom shifted beside her, sensing the change. "What is it?" he asked, his jovial demeanor faltering. As the figure approached, Sarah's heart raced. What could this mean for all the progress they'd just made? And as the door closed behind them, a new wave of uncertainty washed over the diner, leaving Sarah questioning, was today really the fresh start it seemed? The figure pulled back the hood, revealing a familiar face that sent a chill racing down Sarah's spine. It was her ex-husband, Mike. The moment their eyes met, time felt frozen, washed away by the myriad of memories they once shared, the laughter, the arguments, and ultimately, the heartbreak that led to their separation. "Sarah?" His voice was laced with uncertainty, cutting through the chatter of the diner. She could feel Tom's body tense beside her. This was not the reunion she had fantasized about, it was an echo of past grievances, a reminder of what she thought she'd left behind. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her heart pounding. The warmth of the diner faded, replaced by a cold sweat pooling between her palms. "I came to see the kids," he said, the edge of desperation creeping into his tone. "I know I've been away for a while." "I just thought," he faltered, searching for words that could close the canyon of distance between them. "Thought what? They'd just be waiting by the window?" Sarah replied, her voice sharper than she intended. A flicker of anger ignited within her. "Do you even remember what Christmas means to a child?" Tom stepped forward, his voice steady but low. "Maybe you should give her a moment." His eyes were sincere, but Sarah could hardly register his kindness. All she could see was Mike's sullen figure, a stark reminder of promises broken. The diner felt like a stage set for a drama she never wanted to star in. Families around them resumed their conversations, but the earlier warmth was gone, replaced with palpable tension. Sarah's hands trembled at her sides as the memories flooded back, the late nights waiting for him to come home, the empty promises during their marriage, and the holidays that passed with barely a word of love exchanged. "I want to do better, Sarah." "I know I messed up," Mike said, his eyes searching hers for any glimmer of forgiveness. "I just want a chance to be there for them again. That's all you do, isn't it? Come around only when it suits you." The bite in her words surprised even her. Deep down, she recognized a sliver of pity stirring inside, but it was drowned out by an even louder hurt. Tom glanced sideways at her, as if gauging the battle that raged within her heart. She felt a small stab of gratitude towards him, for his presence anchoring her. Yet, the situation remained heavy and unresolved. "Why now, Mike?" she demanded. "Why not a year ago? Or even last Christmas?" Her voice trembled, revealing the cracks in her composure. Mike shifted uncomfortably, realizing he had no answer that could seem adequate. The silence stretched out, thick and unyielding like fog on a winter morning. A group of children at the far end of the diner erupted in a fit of laughter, the sound bouncing around them like a fragile hope. A part of Sarah yearned to embrace that joy, to be swept away by it, but the confrontation held her hostage. Tom stepped closer, intent on protecting her from whatever came next. "Maybe it isn't too late for you to be part of their lives, but you need to earn their trust back first." His voice was calm but firm, a noticeable contrast to the turmoil swirling around them. "I get it," Mike said softly, looking down. "I have a lot to prove, don't I?" Sarah's heart twisted painfully at the sight of a man chipped and worn by regret. Yet, she had no idea if she was ready to tear down the walls that guarded her emotions. "Talk to the kids first, Mike. If they're open to it, then maybe," her voice trailed off. The possibility sat heavy in the air, like the snow about to fall outside. Just then, a child at the nearest table caught her eye, raising a cup of hot chocolate in a toast. She couldn't help but smile. What would her children say? Would they welcome their father back, or would the scars run too deep? The weight of it all, the expectations and the past, hung over them like a holiday cloud. As she looked at Tom, he seemed to sense the fragility of the moment, understanding the complexity of feelings swirling around them. "I'll think about it," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. She turned away from Mike, facing the warmth of the diner, the laughter, and the messiness of family that still felt uncertain. Outside, snow started to drift lazily down from the sky, each flake a reminder of the potential for new beginnings. But before she could let herself feel hopeful, Tom asked softly, "Sarah, are you okay with this?" And for the first time in a long while, she wasn't sure. What did moving forward really mean? As she stood there, the noise of the diner enveloping her once more, she couldn't shake off the lingering question: could broken hearts truly heal, or was redemption just a seasonal illusion? The moment felt like a bead of silk thread, hanging unbroken before the inevitable drop. Sarah turned back towards Mike, searching for any inkling of sincerity in his expression. She could see the shadow of remorse etched deep in his features, but shadows could lie. "How long are you staying in town?" she asked, her voice cold, unsure if she wanted to hear the answer. Tom remained at her side, a steady rock against the turmoil swirling in the air, but now she felt the weight of Mike's presence pressing heavier than before. "Just until the holidays. I thought maybe we could see each other," Mike stuttered, struggling to find a way to rebuild upon the ashes of their past. The sorrow in his voice was palpable, but it could only do so much. Sarah's heart waged war against itself. She remembered the moments when his presence filled their home with warmth, not just the bitter chill of absence. But those moments felt like a lifetime ago, and the pain of his choices was fresh, echoing in her thoughts louder than any laughter could drown out. "I can't just," she began, but the tremor in her voice cut her off. She cleared her throat, trying to steady herself. "You think it's that simple? To come back and just expect things to be okay because it's Christmas?" "I know I can't just fix everything with a few words or even a holiday," he confessed. "But I'm trying. I want to be in their lives, if they'll let me." As he spoke, she glimpsed the vulnerable man behind the mask of bravado he wore when they were married. Still, the walls she had built around her heart felt more like armor than protections anymore. "I can't put them through," Sarah started, but Tom stepped in, sensing the tension rising again. "Mike, if you really want to be back in their lives, then you need to remember that trust is earned. It comes from showing up when it counts." His tone was firm but even, a lifeline for Sarah, who felt herself sinking beneath the weight of all they were discussing. Mike nodded, his eyes meeting Sarah's with a desperate plea for understanding. "I'll do whatever it takes. I promise." For a moment, the world outside the diner faded into the background, leaving only the rawness surrounding their trio. Sarah could hardly breathe, caught between the love she had once known and the resentment that had taken root after the last goodbye. Her thoughts turned to their kids, mustering the courage to keep them protected from heartbreak. Would they even want to know their father again? Could she ever forgive him enough to allow that to happen? Would it feel like betrayal to let him back in? A child squealed in delight somewhere in the diner, echoing laughter tugging at the corners of her heart, deepening the ache of indecision. "Sarah," Tom whispered, drawing her attention. "You have to think about what you want for yourself and the kids. It's Christmas. You deserve happiness." The words hung in the air. They bore an undeniable weight and a potent truth. Happiness felt like a distant mirage, shimmering and just out of reach. "I don't even know what happiness looks like anymore," she whispered, the honesty of her admission casting a shroud of silence around them. Mike flinched, and for a second, disappointment clouded his face. It pained her to see the depths of his regret because a tiny flicker of compassion nestled deep within her. "Maybe we could go for a coffee, just us," he suggested softly, his eyes pleading. "Something without the pressure. Just to talk. To see if anything's still there." She hesitated. The thought of sitting down with him flooded her with a mix of dread and hope. Could it pave a path to clarity? Or would it only ignite old wounds? Tom placed a reassuring hand on her back, a reminder she wasn't alone. "It's your choice," he said, his voice quiet yet firm. As she deliberated, the laughter around them twisted and turned, a stark contrast to the heaviness in her heart. Somewhere deep down, Sarah knew this moment was a crossroads. One turn led to ghosts she could never fully escape from, while the other shimmered with the chance to rewrite her story. But could she really write a new chapter, or were they bound to repeat the past? With a deep breath, she looked into Mike's eyes, trying to gauge what his intentions truly were. Okay, but just one cup. Just to talk. As she felt Tom's supportive presence beside her, she couldn't help but wonder if perhaps the holiday spirit was more than just an illusion. What lay ahead frightened and exhilarated her all at once. And just as she thought she could see a way forward, a sudden crash from the kitchen sent a jolt through the diner and through her heart. What had she just stepped into? The crash echoed like thunder, slicing through the fragile moment that had just begun to take shape. Sarah spun around, instinctively reaching out for Tom's hand. The clatter of pots and pans resonated, and the diners momentarily paused their chatter. She felt the air thicken, everyone holding their breath, waiting to see what would unfold. Her heart raced. What was that? She whispered, her eyes darting toward the kitchen doorway. Mike shifted uncomfortably, the earlier mask of confidence slipping away. Probably just some plates. I'll check, he said, his voice tense. As he moved toward the kitchen, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the atmosphere had shifted. That crash felt like an omen, a sign that this unexpected reunion had already stirred a pot of chaos. Tom leaned closer to her, surveying the entrance to the kitchen. Do you want me to go with him? Just in case? No, it's fine, she replied, though uncertainty gnawed at her. Let's just wait. A few minutes dragged by, stretching into an eternity filled with muffled voices and the sound of shuffling feet. The air buzzed with anticipation. Sarah gripped the edge of the table, her nails digging into the surface, feeling the wood beneath. She glanced around the diner, searching for any clues in the faces surrounding her. Some looked concerned, others amused. It was a strange blend of ordinary life carrying on, even as her own felt like it was unraveling. Just then, Mike re-emerged, flustered. He held a crisp white napkin in his hands as he approached their table. You won't believe this, he said, his brows knitted together as he regained his composure. There's someone in the kitchen who needs help. A little girl, she's hurt her ankle. They're going to call for an ambulance. What? Sarah's heart plummeted. The innocence of a child's suffering tangled her emotions and drowned out everything else in the room. Where is she? The waitstaff said she was playing in the back. They're tending to her now, but his voice trailed off, and he looked at her, searching for an ally in this unexpected crisis. Without thinking, Sarah pushed her chair back and stood. I'll help. Instinct kicked in, pushing aside anything else brewing in her mind about Mike or their conversation. This was bigger, it mattered. She could be of use. Hold up, Tom said, rising to follow her. You shouldn't go alone. As they headed to the kitchen, Sarah's thoughts spiraled. What about her kids? What would they think? But they would want her to help. They always did. Adventuring into the depths of concern for a stranger held a strange comfort amidst her own turmoil. When they arrived, the smell of grease and warm bread enveloped them. A small cluster of staff stood around a young girl sitting on the floor, tears streaming down her cheeks as she cradled her ankle. The little girl's eyes were wide with fear, and Sarah's heart softened as she knelt beside her. She had seen this before with her own children. Hey there, Sarah said gently, reaching for the girl's hand. I'm here. What's your name? Lily, the child whimpered, looking at Sarah with a mix of trust and pain. All right, Lily. Can you wiggle your toes for me? Sarah coaxed, her voice steady even though her own heart raced. Lily took a deep breath and shook her head. It hurts. I know it does, sweetheart. But we're going to make it better. They're calling for a doctor. You're brave, Sarah encouraged, squeezing the girl's hand reassuringly. As the other staff members rushed around, organizing the scene, Sarah felt a surge of purpose wash over her. In those frantic moments, she found clarity. Maybe this was her way of doing something for someone else, something bigger than her own confusion. Mike stood back, watching with an intensity she hadn't seen before. His expression shifted from helplessness to admiration, and it was then that Sarah felt a vital connection, not just to Lily, but to the moment itself. And just like that, amidst the chaos and uncertainty, Sarah felt the stirrings of hope. Perhaps helping someone else could be a path to her own healing. But as an ambulance siren wailed in the distance, mingling with the hum of the diner, another thought pierced through. What if this moment stood not just as a lifeline for Lily but also a bridge toward healing her fractured family? Her heart pounded as she looked up at Mike, the weight of realization pressing down. Sharing her life with him could open doors, but at what cost? With each passing second, the air thickened with the potential for change. And as she reached for Lily's hand, she knew her journey was far from over. An unexpected path lay ahead, one that could redefine everything. What awaited her just beyond the next corner remained unknown. Sarah's breaths mingled with the thick air of the kitchen, punctuated by the faint whir of ceiling fans trying to cool the rising tension. She focused on Lily, whose small hand felt fragile and warm in hers, a reminder of innocence and trust. "Look at me, Lily," Sarah said softly, making sure their eyes stayed locked. "You're going to be okay. I promise." She could feel the weight of the entire diner pressing in, the worries of the adults around her muted as she anchored herself to this child. Tom stood just a few steps behind, shifting anxiously. He repeatedly glanced towards the kitchen doorway, clearly torn between wanting to help and needing to protect Sarah. "Is there anything I can do?" He finally blurted out, the urgency in his voice slicing through the moment. "Just keep an eye out for the medics," Sarah replied, not wanting to break the comforting bubble she had created around Lily. "And let them know we're ready." Tom nodded and backed away, his shadow falling away from her like a heavy cloak being lifted. Sarah turned her full attention to the girl. "Lily, I know it hurts, but I want you to squeeze my hand if you feel any better or if it gets worse, okay?" The little girl nodded, her brow furrowed but her attention focused on Sarah's soothing voice. In that moment, everything else faded: the bustling kitchen, the uneasy diners peeking in, even the undeniable tension hanging over Sarah's own heart. She had been consumed by her own struggles lately, a turmoil that had begun to feel unbearable. But here, kneeling in grime and warmth, she felt a glimmer of clarity emerging from the fog. "Do you like cartoons?" Sarah asked, desperately trying to distract Lily. "Yeah." Lily's eyes widened, momentarily pulling her away from the pain. "Me too." Sarah grinned. "What's your favorite?" "Paw Patrol." Lily replied, her voice getting stronger, the tears starting to dry in the corners of her eyes. "I love them too. Those puppies are so brave, huh? Just like you are being right now." For a moment, the flashing lights of the ambulance faded into the background. Sarah was fascinated by how a simple, shared connection could create a bond, even within the chaos of crisis. The kitchen door swung open and in burst two paramedics clad in navy uniforms, practical yet comforting. Sarah glanced up and felt a weight lift. Finally, help had arrived. "Can you step aside a moment, miss?" one of the paramedics asked, glancing at Sarah with a steady but gentle expression. "Of course," she said, her heart racing again, not out of fear this time but from the fear of letting go. As she stepped back, she felt a rush of sadness as the bright spark she had kindled with Lily began to dim. The paramedics knelt and began to assess Lily, asking her questions while wrapping her ankle with gentle care. "You did so well," Sarah whispered to the child, her heart swelling with pride. She felt a rush of warmth as Lily gave her a grateful smile in return. Just then, she felt a presence beside her. Mike. He stood close, watching in silence before murmuring, "You really helped her." Sarah turned to him, some of the awkwardness from before returning, but it felt softer now, more familiar. "I didn't do much," she replied, her eyes still on Lily. "No," he insisted, a fervor in his voice, "you did everything. You calmed her. You made her feel safe." Was that admiration in his tone? A flicker of recognition danced in his gaze that made her pulse quicken. Just then, the paramedics carefully lifted Lily onto a stretcher, and a hollowness settled back over Sarah as the child slid from her reach. "Thank you," Lily said, her voice small but filled with strength. "Keep being brave, Lily." "I can't wait to hear about your puppy adventures," Sarah said, forcing her heart to expand even as it tightened. As the medics whisked Lily away towards the front of the diner, Sarah remained rooted in place. Mike's presence surprisingly comforting, and at that moment, she realized this was her chance. To heal. To rekindle connections. But as she glanced back at the diner filled with familiar faces, unease bubbled within her. How do you embark on a new path when you're unsure of the ones you are leaving behind? The brisk wind of change had swept through her, wrapping around her even deeper than she realized. Tomorrow could hold so much more, but what was waiting for her just beyond the next corner formed a knot of anticipation in her stomach. "Ready?" Mike asked, eyeing her thoughtfully. "Ready?" Sarah echoed, finding strength in her voice. Yet, a new question lingered: could she truly leave the past behind and embrace whatever was in front of her? With every breath, uncertainty and possibility intertwined, nudging her towards an unknown destination. Would she step into the uncertainty or retreat into what she knew? The answer loomed just ahead. The chatter of the diner had diminished to a low hum, a background noise that was barely noticeable. But for Sarah, it swelled with echoes of her own thoughts, swirling around her like the steam from the coffee pots. There was a world beyond those walls, and each moment spent frozen in the fluorescent light of the diner whispered possibilities. "Let us step outside for a moment," Mike suggested, breaking her reverie. The air outside was crisp, a sharp contrast to the heat that had enveloped them within. It bit at her cheeks but felt invigorating, shaking off the worries that had tied her up in knots. She took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the scent of adventure and a hint of hope. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern etching his brow. She shrugged, her shoulders lifting as her heart raced. "Just thinking. About Lily, about everything." Mike nodded slowly, his eyes searching hers. "You were really great with her. You didn't just comfort her, you gave her something more, something real." He paused, weighing his words. Not everyone can do that. His praise was warm, making her cheeks flush. But it kindled a question within her. Why does it feel like I'm just pretending? Pretending? He frowned. You were authentic. You connected with that little girl at her lowest point. But the rest of my life feels like a facade, she admitted, the crack in her voice trembling just above the noise of the night. I'm stuck in this diner, waiting for something to change, while life just passes me by. With a soft smile, he stepped closer, grounding her with his presence. What if change is already here? Sarah's heart quickened again. What do you mean? Tomorrow is just a day away. Each moment you spend worried about the past keeps you tied to it. What if you let it go and just embraced whatever comes next? The weight of his words hung between them, palpable. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, and it made her feel bold. But still, uncertainty gnawed at her. I don't know if I can just make those changes. What if I fail? Failure is just another step toward success, he reassured her, his voice steady and inviting. You've already taken that step by helping Lily. You opened your heart to someone in need. That's a start. Her breath hitched. Could she really take that leap? The answer was deeper than just a resignation to a present life, it was a beckoning of hope. Would you believe me if I said that everything I've been through brought me to this moment? She asked, looking away as she fought back fresh waves of emotions. I would, he replied. His earnestness was a lifeline, pulling her out of the swirling currents of fear. She glanced back at the diner, the familiar faces now illuminated in a different light. Each one seemed caught in their own struggles, but there was comfort in the familiarity. Yet, she longed for more. As they stood there, the world felt poised on the brink of something extraordinary. All the what-ifs tumbled through her mind, colliding with visions of freedom and possibility. "Okay," she said finally, a spark igniting in her chest. "I'm ready to try something new." The cautious smile that crept across Mike's face surged warmth throughout her, as if they shared an unspoken pact. But just as hope blossomed, a sharp sound shattered their moment. A screech of tires echoed from the street. Sarah's stomach dropped as a car careened past, headlights slicing through the dim night, barely missing the corner where they stood. The sharpness of that moment shifted everything. What just happened? She breathed, adrenaline surging again. Mike's expression morphed into concern. "I don't know, but let's check it out." Suddenly, the night vibrated with urgency. Sarah took a breath, both excited and terrified. Was this the change she had asked for? With determination coursing through her veins, she followed Mike toward the source of the screeching tires. Whatever lay ahead, she vowed to face it. After all, maybe the path to transformation didn't just begin with little steps. Sometimes, it started with a leap into chaos. What awaited her at the corner, she wondered, that could lead her toward her future? The night air hung thick with tension as Sarah and Mike raced towards the source of the noise. Their footsteps fell heavy on the asphalt, mixing with the distant sounds of sirens approaching. Every heartbeat echoed in her ears, a crescendo of fear and uncertainty. When they reached the corner, a scene unfolded before them that jolted her senses. A small hatchback lay crumpled against a lamppost, steam rising from its hood like smoke. The driver, a young woman, sat behind the wheel, wide-eyed and shaking. For a moment, Sarah felt a surge of empathy and acute awareness that the woman could be anyone. "Is everyone okay?" Mike called out, his voice steady despite the chaos. The woman glanced up, her brow knitted in panic. "I think so. I can't move." The tremor in her voice pulled at Sarah's heart. She could see the fear etched in the woman's face, mirroring her own struggles. Without thinking, Sarah stepped forward. She'd never been someone who rushed to help in emergencies. It was always safer to watch from a distance. But tonight was different. She could no longer linger in the shadows of her old life. "Let me help," she said, as she reached for the door handle. With a gentle push, the door swung open, and she crouched beside the driver. "Can you take a deep breath? You're going to be okay." The woman nodded, her expression slowly transitioning from fear to relief as Sarah's kind gaze met hers. "I thought I was going to," she choked on the words. "No, you've got this. We're going to get you out of here." There was something empowering about breaking through her own barriers, even in the face of crisis. Mike was by her side now, assessing the situation, and with a few calming words, he made sure the young woman felt safe. The crowd that had gathered murmured in concern, but Sarah barely heard them. She was focused, anchored by the moment, by the connection she had forged in the midst of chaos. As sirens wailed closer, a sense of urgency enveloped them. They worked together, helping the woman step out of the rubble of her car. The night felt charged, electricity in the air as more bystanders arrived, each contributing to the unfolding scene. "Thank you," the woman whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "I thought I didn't know what to do." "You did it. You stayed strong," Sarah responded, her voice soothing. For that brief moment, they were two souls bound by a shared experience, a glimpse into each other's lives that surpassed their struggles. As the paramedics arrived, Sarah felt a shift inside herself. She had chosen to act, to step into the unknown. Transformation wasn't just about looking ahead, it was about embracing the rawness of the present, about weaving connections where chaos thrived. Mike caught her eye, and the proud smile he wore ignited something within her, a flicker of possibility that she'd never experienced before. "It's not just about change," he said softly as they stepped back to allow the professionals in. "It's about the moments we create. Each one teaches us something valuable." Sarah nodded, the weight of his words sinking now deeper than any fear she'd ever felt. But as she turned to face him, a thought crossed her mind, a flutter of excitement mixed with dread. What if this isn't just a moment? What if it's the start of something bigger? She mused, her heart racing at the possibility. Mike's eyes sparkled with encouragement. Then let us embrace it, whatever it is. But just as hope swelled between them, an unexpected figure burst onto the scene, an officer, his voice raised above the commotion. We need a witness. Who saw what happened? Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. Would this moment unravel everything she had just begun to understand? As she exchanged glances with Mike, a new wave of uncertainty washed over her. What other layers of her life might this unfolding story reveal? Her heart raced, it felt like standing on the edge of something incredible. With determination tightening her throat, she stepped forward. I saw everything, and just like that, she took another leap into uncertainty, ready to face whatever came next. What awaited her in that officer's questioning gaze? The officer's gaze was steady as Sarah stepped forward, her heart thrumming in her chest with each pounding beat. The weight of expectation hung thick in the air, mingling with the cries of sirens and the murmurs of the curious crowd behind her. She took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. I was right there. The car lost control and hit the lamppost, she said, her voice clear and unwavering despite the swirling uncertainty. There was power in naming the truth, a strength that surged through her, grounding her amidst the chaos. The officer turned towards her, his notepad ready. Can you describe what you saw just before the impact? As she spoke, images flickered in her mind, something about that fleeting moment just before the chaos consumed them. I saw her veering off track, and then she hit the ice. The words flowed, each one a revelation, pulling her deeper into the reality of the situation, into the moment she realized her strength. Thank you, the officer responded, jotting down the details. Sarah felt a warm flush of adrenaline course through her. She was contributing, becoming part of something larger than herself, creating ripples in a moment that could change lives. Behind her, Mike stood with a firm presence, his eyes filled with admiration. She could see the mixture of pride and awe bloom as he took in her fierce resolve. And there, in the midst of turmoil, with her heart racing and words flowing, she felt a flicker of self-realization. She was not just a waitress, not merely someone trapped in the routine of life. She was a vital thread woven into the fabric of her community, someone who mattered. Once the officer had collected enough information, he stepped back, thanking Sarah with a nod of respect. The paramedics were now tending to the woman fully, but Sarah's focus was on the realization blooming in her chest. See? You just helped someone. Mike said softly, sliding next to her as the ambulance doors closed behind the woman. The chaos began to settle, and amidst it all, their connection grew stronger. Yeah, but I didn't just help her, Sarah replied, her emotions bubbling over, tinged with excitement. I helped myself. I'm moving beyond my own struggles. Each word echoed with a newfound sense of identity. Mike's eyes shone with pride, illuminating the spaces where doubt had once lingered. That's the spirit. You're beginning to understand your power. Power, Sarah repeated, letting the word slide off her tongue. Did she really feel powerful? It felt so strange, yet so exhilarating. Maybe the real change she craved wasn't just about escaping the past, it was about embracing who she could become. As the crowd dissipated, Sarah felt a stirring hope within herself, a sense of direction that had been absent for so long. It was as though a light had begun to shine on paths less traveled, and they opened up like blossoms in the spring. Do you still want that coffee? Mike asked, a hint of playfulness returning to his tone. The moment felt lighter now, the heaviness lifting. Yes, I think I need one more than ever, she replied, laughter spilling from her lips. Maybe a hot chocolate too, just for good measure. As they turned back to the diner, she felt like she was leaving behind another version of herself, one that had clung too tightly to the pain of the past. But she emerged from the experience with renewed clarity. Each step she took wasn't just for her, it would ultimately pave the way for her children, too. Once back inside the diner, the atmosphere shifted again. People resumed their conversations, the warmth enveloping her like a beloved embrace. The laughter infused the air with a comforting glow, and she felt buoyed by moments of connection. Tom was leaning against the counter, eyes bright with admiration when he saw them. "Did everything go okay?" he asked, concern etching his brow. "Yeah, we helped." "I helped," Sarah beamed, the joy bubbling over as she spoke the words. "I told you." Tom chuckled. "You're a lifesaver." She laughed, but it wasn't just on the surface. It radiated from a place deep within her, wrapping her in acceptance, change, and a shimmering sense of purpose. As they settled down at a booth, Sarah's mind danced with possibilities. The old worries and burdens were still there, all the unpaid bills and challenges yet to face, but they felt lighter now, like clouds dispersing after a storm. "I think I want to reach out to the kids about Mike," she said, her voice steady as she weighed the decision. "This could be a chance for healing for all of us." Simple clarity shimmered as she spoke the words. "Yes," Mike said, excitement sparking in his tone. "Start fresh, take it slow, and see where it leads." The vision of a renewed family, one forged through understanding and honesty, flickered with potential. The thought didn't scare her as it once might have, the possibilities stretched out before her like the open road. "And maybe I know it's a lot, but could you consider helping me with the diner more often?" she ventured, glancing at Mike. "Not just during Christmas. I want my kids to see it's okay to have community and family, even when things are messy." His eyes lit up, reflecting the hope that lay beneath her words. "I'd love that." Sarah smiled wider. It felt like a door opening, a pathway toward love and connection amid the challenges. Everything felt aligned in a way it hadn't before, and she could sense the promise of new friendships, inclusiveness, and healing rising like the dawn. As she sipped her hot chocolate and felt the warmth of companionship surround her, she knew she was ready. The uncertainty that had once frightened her transformed into a canvas of vibrant possibilities. And as laughter echoed throughout the diner, a pure joy washed over her. It wasn't just about survival, it was about thriving. This Christmas didn't just mark a holiday, it began a sacred journey. With her heart full, Sarah realized, amid chaos and change, she had the power to co-create a life rich with love, healing, and hope. As the laughter continued to swell around her, she knew the best was yet to come. This was only the beginning. Now, if you found yourself illuminated by this story of transformation, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you never miss the next exclusive stories. Hit that like button now, because your support feeds the algorithm and helps us reach more hearts. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this journey. Each share counts, and only true fans know the importance of lifting each other up. Comment below and let us know how the ending affected you. You need to share your feelings. Join us in this adventure as we create a community full of love and support. Let us make our voices heard.